niṣkāraṇaṃ punā rūpaṃ naiva naivopapadyate tasmād rūpa-gatān kāṃś-cin na vikalpān vikalpayet.
niṣkāraṇaṃ punā rūpaṃ naiva naivopapadyate tasmād rūpa-gatān kāṃś-cin na vikalpān vikalpayet. MMK chapter 4 verse 5. But again, physicality is most certainly not possible without cause, not at all. On these grounds, where physicality is concerned, one should not contrive any false constructs whatsoever. This morning, probably influenced by memorising these verses yesterday, I remembered after my Alexander Head of Tried, I went to visit his widow at his house and found lying there his copy of the Bible. And if I remember rightly, it was the Old Testament, I think Deuteronomy. It could have been Luke in the New Testament, but I think it was the Old Testament. Whereas that phrase, thou shalt love thy God or thy Lord with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might. I think the New Testament version it says with all thy mind at the end, with all thy strength and with all thy mind. But I quite like the Old Testament version. With all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy might. And there's physicality again, isn't it? Thy might. But you've got a sort of hierarchy there. Heart, soul and might. So it's like motivation has to be there. And then soul, the whole of your mind has got to be in it. And then physicality, true physicality emerges. So, first line says, but again, punā, the H with a dot at the end, the physical visarga is dropped before the rūpaṃ. So punā, but again. Rūpaṃ, physicality, is most certainly not naiva. Upapadyate is possible. So naiva plus upapadyate is naivopapadyate. Without cause, niṣkāraṇaṃ. So nish means without as a prefix, and kārana again means cause. So rūpaṃ is nominative singular neuter. So niṣkāraṇaṃ is an adjective describing rūpa, physicality, as without cause. So again, but again, punā, physicality, rūpaṃ, is most certainly not possible, naivopapadyate, without cause, niṣkāraṇaṃ. And then there are two naivas. So I've added at the end, not at all. So for particular emphasis, you've got naiva, naivopapadyate. Is not possible, not at all. So it's very emphatic. So what's he emphasizing? So he's saying in the previous verse, a cause of physicality is impossible. And we've understood that means a non-empty cause, a self-existing cause is impossible where emptiness prevails. But again, as we've already explored in detail in the opening verses, that doesn't mean that physicality is without cause. The point is that physicality is dependently arisen. Those are the causal grounds of physicality. the causal grounds of physicality are not non-empty causes. Eating a bowl of porridge is a cause of physicality. Again, that's the wrong way of saying it. Physicality is dependently arisen from eating a bowl of porridge. But that doesn't mean that eating a bowl of porridge is a cause, because if we say it's a cause, that's a non-empty conception. So physicality is dependently arisen from eating a bowl of porridge, which is dependently arisen from the farmer growing the oats and the supermarket person stacking the shelves with oats, etc., etc. The sunshine shining on the farmer's oats, and the rain raining down on the farmer's oats, and the cloud forming condensed water and everything. So tasmād, on these grounds. I think it's the same as it at the end of chapter 1. It's on these grounds means on the grounds of emptiness. Where physicality is concerned, rūpa-gatān. So the gatān is accusative plural, agreeing with vikalpān, and vikalpa means conjecture or construct. So the root viklip, it suggests to form, to fabricate, to contrive, and especially to form a notion. So construct is a word that works okay. So vikalpān, the dictionary gives for vikalpa false notion. So false construct, I've translated here. It's accusative plural. So vikalpān, false constructs. And the verb is vikalpayet. Again, same root of viklip. So vikalpayet means that's third person singular optative. So it means might contrive. One might contrive, one might construct. Here it's with a negative, na vikalpayet. So it means one should not contrive. Na vikalpān vikalpayet. One should not contrive false constructs. So verb is vikalpayet and its object is accusative plural vikalpān, false constructs. And kāṃś-cin, singular, means any. And here we've got kāṃś-cin. So kāṃs is accusative plural, or kān is accusative plural of ka, but before cin it becomes kāṃs. So kāṃś-cin vikalpān means any false constructs, or any false constructs whatsoever. And then rūpa-gatān, as I was beginning to explain before, that also is accusative plural, agreeing with vikalpān. And so gata is past participle of gam, it means gone to. So rūpa-gatān means gone to or going to rūpa, physicality. So in this case, I think it means concerning physicality. So I've translated it where physicality is concerned. More literally, one should not contrive any false constructs whatsoever that have gone to, that have approached physicality. So again, from the English, on these grounds, tasmād. So tasmād before rūpa. And again, these grounds, on these grounds means on the grounds of emptiness. Where physicality is concerned, rūpa-gatān, one should not contrive, na vikalpayet, any false constructs whatsoever. Kāṃś-cin vikalpān. So what does it mean, where physicality is concerned, to contrive false constructs? What does it mean to contrive false constructs onto physicality? First time, 2 years ago, I translated it. One should not project any false constructs whatsoever onto physicality. So that, but in that case, project isn't really the original meaning of vikalpayet. Vikalpayet, one should conjecture, one should suppose, one should contrive. So when I was reflecting on what this second line meant yesterday, what does it mean to contrive any false constructs where physicality is concerned on these grounds? So the false construct regarding physicality and regarding non-empty causes of physicality would be to conceive of physicality being explained by non-empty causes, by non-empty factors. So I googled, I think I asked the question, what is the original unit of the body? What is the smallest biological unit? I've got my Google search there. Smallest biological unit. And hey presto, here comes the answer. The cell, from Latin cella, meaning small room, is the basic structural, functional and biological unit of all known living organisms. A cell is the smallest unit of life. Cells are often called the building blocks of life. The study of cells is called cell biology. So on these grounds, tasmād, on the grounds we've been studying so far, exploring so far in this chapter, this is a false construct. It's saying there are non-empty basic building blocks. So actually I took a screenshot of an even more clear example of what I was trying to say about a non-empty conception, a false construct. This is from a website called springer.com. I think I googled smallest unit of life, cell biology, and this came up. The cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of living organisms, which can exist on its own. So the own is in bold. The cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of living organisms, which can exist on its own. Therefore, it is sometimes called the building block of life. Some organisms, such as bacteria or yeast, are unicellular, consisting only of a single cell, while others, for instance mammalians, are multicellular. So there you have it, absolutely explicit. According to this, the cell can exist on its own. Well, that is the antithesis of emptiness. That's the non-empty, that's the Zen realist conception. There is the stone lantern in the garden, as it is. But what Nagarjuna is teaching, the ultimate truth of emptiness, is that nothing exists as it is. Least of all, a living cell. If you think about it, if you stop and think about it, what a stupid statement. The cell can exist on its own. How the hell can a cell exist on its own? It's just a nice little example of educated ignorance, isn't it? So I think that's what he's saying in this second line. Tasmād, on these grounds, rūpa-gatān, going to physicality, kāṃś-cin, not any at all, not vikalpān, false constructs, vikalpayet, one should contrive. So you see, if you think about it in terms of school, I went to a school that was full of brain boxes. So in a sense, that encouraged me in physicality, because there was no future in me trying to be cleverer than a lot of the people who were at the school. Things like maths or sciences and so on. There were people who were really, really clever. Relatively speaking, my strengths were on the rugby pitch. But in a way, if what I'm here for is to explain or to explore and clarify this kind of stuff, it was actually a blessing that happened, because if I'd gone down a more intellectual route, I would have become more and more educated in false constructs. So what he's saying in this second line is the same as what's said in the Alexander technique. You know, Alexander said, a child of 3 can understand this work, but give me a man who's been educated, and God help me. Because education is mainly about contriving false constructs, isn't it? In a non-empty way. So think about Marjorie Barlow. Margie was very interested when she was 16 in the problem of consciousness. She wasn't originally herself a very physically oriented person. Actually, she liked poetry, she liked reading Keats, but she was very interested in the problem of consciousness. And so it's kind of the other way around from me. You know, so she'd led quite a sheltered life, Marjorie. So she told the story of when she first went for Alexander lesson with her uncle F.M. Alexander. You know, she went in sort of quite tightly as the prim Edwardian teenager. She was 16, I think she was 16, and she put a handbag down by the side of a chair, you know, sat there with her knees together. And the first thing FM did was to sort of put his hands on the knees and pull the legs apart, you know, which is a more mechanically advantageous position for eventually be able to stand up out of the chair. But Marjorie said she was absolutely scandalised, and she could have hit him with a handbag, she said, because, you know, she thought it was more ladylike to have the knees kind of closely clamped together. So you get a sense from that she wasn't really a physical person, you know. But her interest in consciousness brought her to physicality, and it was like a microcosm of that. Because I always had the sense that she enjoyed teaching me, despite me being an awkward pest in many ways. She enjoyed teaching me because of my physical presence. You know, I was a bloke. I mean, I started having lessons when I was about 38, and I would ride down on my motorbike. I think she felt the same with Trevor Allen Davies. I heard her talk about her men, you know, her men. So she liked the physicality of working on a man. Like when I go and shovel the horse manure, I like the physicality of the horse and the donkey. You know, it's nice to be in contact with that kind of animal energy. And so there was some aspect of that. But when Marjorie put her hands on me to help speed up the learning process by her use of her hands, it was exactly as she said. It was like her hands were in contact with my brain and nervous system. So she wasn't doing body work with her hand. She used to say, that's how I feel it is. I feel I'm in contact with your brain and nervous system. So it's accessing physicality, or it's really working on the brain and the nervous system, on the thinking, which indirectly influences the physicality. So again, if what I experienced on Marjorie Barlow's teaching table was true physicality, the cause of it There wasn't a cause of it, but it was dependently arisen from the work that Marjorie was doing, among other things. Niṣkāraṇaṃ punā rūpaṃ naiva naivopapadyate. But again, physicality is most certainly not possible without cause, not at all. Okay, so that experience of physicality, it doesn't have a specific cause, a non-empty cause, but it's certainly not without cause. He's suggesting it's dependently arisen. That's how I understand it. Physicality is an empty. Physicality is empty. It's not a thing. It's empty. There is physicality, but it's not a thing. It's empty, and it's dependently arisen. It doesn't have a cause. Tasmād rūpa-gatān kāṃś-cin vikalpān vikalpayet. On these grounds, where physicality is concerned, one should not contrive any false constructs whatsoever. But we do. And again, at the risk once more of labouring a point, the cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of living organisms which can exist on its own, with the own in block font. The cell is the smallest unit which can exist on its own. Now, that is a conspicuous example on the grounds of emptiness of a false construct, because Nagarjuna's point on the grounds of emptiness is that there is nothing that can exist on its own. What existed on its own would be a self-existing, non-empty, immutable, existing thing. And that is Shashvata Drishti, the eternity view. It's one kind of view that's off the middle way. And the opposite view, Ucheda Drishti, is that a cell does not exist. So the eternity, negation of the eternity view, which in other words is negation of realism, is not nihilism in the sense that nothing matters, or nothing exists, nothing is important. A cell is important, it's real. It's real because it's empty, and it's empty because it's real. So those are the two views which the Buddha negated when he taught the dependent arising of suffering, madhyena, by the middle. So ignorance is dependently arisen. Then depending on ignorance there are samskaras, which is constructs, confections, fabrications, doings. Depending on samskaras, there's divided consciousness. Depending on divided consciousness, at school, you taught, was it insani, in a healthy mind, in a healthy body? That's divided consciousness right there. So, depending on divided consciousness, psychophysicality. Depending on psychophysicality, six senses. Depending on six senses, contact. Depending on contact, feeling. Depending on feeling, thirsting. Because one thirsts after the object of feeling. Depending on thirsting, upadana, wanting to get your dirty paws on something. clinging, attachment. Depending on attachment, bhava, becoming, continuation of existence. I want to become a monk. Then I'll be better than everybody else. Even though I'm still married. Depending on becoming, birth. Depending on birth, complaining, grumbling, moaning, downheartedness, troubles, feeling sorry for oneself, lamenting, all the sufferings of aging and death.
niṣkāraṇaṃ punā rūpaṃ naiva naivopapadyate tasmād rūpa-gatān kāṃś-cin vikalpān vikalpayet.